Welcome to Sasquatch, the show all about Bigfoot in the great state of Alaska. I'm your host, Beans Baxter. So lace up your boots, zip up your coat, and come with me on an adventure as we explore all things cryptid in the last frontier. Hey everybody, I am back and we are here in the studio with retired Navy SEAL Mr. Dan Toth. We're going to give you guys a little update on what he's been up to and a little peek at the upcoming conference in July of 2026. And I'm going to start off just asking Dan, how you doing, man? It's been a long time.
Hey, I'm doing great, Beans. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me on again. It's good to see you again, and hi to all the viewers out there. It's good to see you, have you on the show as well. So it's a pleasure as always to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Yep, my pleasure.
While I've been getting deluged with rain, you've been out in the field a little bit. And what have you been up to?
Yeah, it's been a fun summer. It's kind of winding down out here, down here in Colorado. But I focused this summer from May up until the end of August on the Medicine Bow National Forest area in Wyoming. And that was a very, very, very eventful summer, if you will. Camped at Lost Creek, and I made 4 trips out there, including one with Scott. Scott's a member of BIG. He came out from Florida a couple of weeks ago, and we went up for a few days and scoured that area. But it's been amazing. We got tree knocks. We got a couple of video sightings that were incredible. And we even had an incident occur that's mind-boggling, where I was on the side of the road at night and I was checking out an area, and I parked my car and got out and ran into a little herd of elk and got some tree knocks in the woods. But the tree knocks this summer in that area got so prolific, being honest with you, after the second trip, I just quit recording them because I realized I'm serious. And it was amazing because I got some of them on audio video, and I know that it was 2 creatures communicating with each other, because on the night of July the 15th the 15th, July 15th, I was tracking one of the creatures from Battle Lake up in the dark, up a creek called Doan Creek that goes up from Battle Lake to the north. And I figured that they were following this gully in the creek going down to the lake, where I'd film them at night. And I've got some tree peeking video of them that's on my website at bigfootinvestigativegroup.com. But in this one incident, I sat there and listened, and there was some really close, super strong, loud knocks down in the gully, maybe not even maybe 100 yards from me, if that. And after a few of the knocks, when I was sitting there in the dark listening to it, I got a response knock from up the hill, which was probably, I don't know, I'd guess maybe had to be less than a quarter mile away. So I was in the middle on the road, dirt road, and I had knocks coming from down in the gully close, and then response knocks coming from up on the mountain behind me. And the knocks down in the gully were, of course, louder and closer, and I heard initially 2 or 3 of them. And then after the third knock from the gully, we got a response knock up the mountain behind me, which you could tell was dimmer, not as loud, and also it was farther away. So when that happened on that night in July, I was sitting there, I admit, I went, holy crap, I'm between 2 of them. And that's what I figured out. And the one was down here and the one was up there, and I was in the middle. So I recorded it because I was really amazed at how much it was going on. And then I went down the road. I figured I'm going to go down the road. So I went and got my car and really slowly drove down the road around this bend and came back in like a minute. I thought I'll come back in a minute or so and maybe I'll get lucky and hopefully see, see it crossing the road or catch it crossing the road. So when I came back to the spot in less than a minute and a half, not even 2 minutes, turned off my car, got out. Because I figured too, well, they're communicating, they know I'm here. And then she's not coming. And I think the one in the gully was the female, in my opinion. And I'll get into more detail on that as we go on. But when I came back after the minute and a half, got out of my car, walked up this little hillside, and I sat down in these thicket by these trees because I thought I don't want to be seen or hopefully not detected if it comes out. And then all of a sudden, to my surprise, and I was pretty shocked by this, wham, right behind me. And I mean, it was loud, powerful, and intensely strong. The impact, the knock. But I thought, and I'm, excuse my French, but I said, son of a bitch, that thing has already crossed the road and it's behind me. So it had already crossed the road in the 1.5 minute where I went, because I figured if I come back, I'll catch it crossing the road. But it had already crossed the road and it was up behind me. And when it did its knock, I was like, whoa, because I knew that it was even closer than it was a couple minutes before down in the gully across the road. So I turned around, and I admit I even reached for my revolver. It was like instinct. I had my revolver in my freaking shoulder holster, my 44 Magnum, and I thought, nah, I ain't gonna do that. So, but I looked in that direction, and I reached down, pulled my ATN thermal imager because I hadn't even fired it back up yet. And right when I did that, I heard the response knock, up farther up the mountain in the distance. And I was like, wow. And then it all ended. And it was like, I took that, like, I guess it kind of crossed the road. It was in the clear and it let the other one know. And then everything just stopped and there was no sound or nothing. I stayed there about another hour, I think, hour and 20 minutes, whatever it was. And then it got late and I just started patrolling the road. Like I do, and I get out and I go to different spots and sit and listen, get a lot of elk, deer, mule deer, all kinds of animals. But the night before that happened on the 15th, I was at Battle Lake up on this cliff, and I got anybody listening, you can see it. Go look at it on my big website. But I got an incredible incident on video, night thermal, that I recorded of the actual creature. You can see it down at the edge of the lake between the pine trees. It comes out. You can tell just by looking at it next to the pine trees how big it is. And I get him on thermal, and he's on the right side of the tree when I get him. And then I even changed the spectrums on my thermal just so people could see the difference in the signature or the appearance, because I've had some people ask me that question. And then it goes from the right side of the tree and it peaks to the left as I'm looking at it, like the left. And you can clearly see it. And then it takes off, heading in the direction to the left of the creek where it feeds into Battle Lake I was telling you about. Creek. And when it takes off, after it comes out from the left side of the pine tree, if you look at the video real closely, you can see the other creature, which I'm convinced is it's probably the male, because this one was smaller and the female's head's not as pointed. But you can actually see when she takes off, you can see the fast, quick, rapid, strong movement, not like any other animal, not even a person. But at the edge of the tree on the left, you can actually see there's a spot there where the other one leaves with it. There's two of them. And when it leaves, you can see this movement where like it's back. It turns and you can see its back. So you know there's two of them. And that's why I went up there to Doan Creek in that gully the next night, because I thought, okay, they've got to be going up and down that creek in that gully. And that's where I went and sat the next night and got the tree knocks. So that was one incident. That's one incident and how everything, came together from the Wyoming stuff this summer.
Yeah. Dan, when you hear these tree knocks, especially the one you heard close to you, did you hear any like debris or anything falling out of the tree or anything like that? Because I've had at least one friend of mine that heard a tree knock, and he said he heard like it was very close, and he could hear stuff, like litter, or leaves, whatever, like fall out of the tree after the tree knock. And I know there's always been like a debate, like how they make that sound, if they're actually hitting the tree, if they're like making a sound with their mouth. And
Yeah.
I just thought I'd throw that out there. But
Yeah, no, I didn't. I've never heard anything. And last year in August, a year ago, when I had the incident with the one down by Summit Creek in Columbine, Colorado, near Hans Peak Lake and all, that one I heard move, and I had a witness with me. First time we heard the three tree knocks, and that one was that thing was no more than 75, 100 feet from the road. And when that tree knocking incident took place last August, a year ago, in well, it was near Summit Creek, between Summit Creek and Columbine, Colorado. Yeah, it was close, and it was powerful, strong, and loud. And it made me, I'm not going to lie to people. I mean, I flinched because I was doing something else, looking down in this gully where there was a stream, and I was walking the stream looking for tracks in the dark. It was like 12:30 at night, I think, when that one happened. But I never heard anything falling out of the trees or anything per se, and I've heard the couple of tree knocking incidents I have and so far.
Yeah.
In my
Well,
experience.
I was in Ohio one time in Salt Fork State Park, and I was walking down, I think it was a Stonehouse Trail, and I heard it was really close. Like, felt like it should have been close enough for me to see whatever made it. I heard a
Yeah,
sound like a champagne cork, like popped. And
yeah,
I always thought, like, in my mind, I always considered that like that was a sound that something made with its mouth.
right,
But I've heard tree knocks that sound like something hit a tree. So I
right.
assume they probably do both. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
yeah,
just thought I'd throw that out there. It's a question. Especially people that hear close up tree knocks, I always want to hit that little point and see if anybody else has made that same observation that my buddy Rob made.
right.
You know?
When like last year when first tree knock I heard out by Summit Creek, Colorado, we could hear it moving after the first knock, and it was loud and powerful. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell everybody candidly right now, um, there is no freaking way, and I'm saying this bluntly and candidly and honestly, the tree knock I heard last August near Summit Creek, Colorado that night, or that morning actually, because it was past midnight. There's no way a human being could hit a tree that hard with whatever. I could tell I've tried it, to kind of like equalize. I mean, even I'm pretty strong still for my age, but I thought there's no way a human being could hit a tree with that much force and power to produce that type of signature report or volume. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I thought Bullwinkle ain't out there, and neither is Yogi and Poo Poo doing it either. And you got to get to the point with this stuff. Like I talked to some people, including Dr. Jeff Meldrum, where the evidence got to get to the point where just go, man. Like Doc said to me a couple times, these things are real. The evidence is overwhelming, and they've got patterns of behavior. They've got all types of idiosyncrasies in their behavior that we're not aware of yet, and I'm convinced of that. And even your account story that you were just making about hearing the sound. When you go back and listen to the Ron Moorhead Sierra sound tapes, if anybody's ever done that, maybe I've done it in detail and in depth numerous times. And when you hear in the Ron Moorhead Sierra Sounds tapes and recordings, the, what do you call it, sounds, audio, or that they make, and their vocalizations, as it's called, and whatever. It's amazing because, people can do that. I mean, there's people out there that are, I met some people in my life where I was like, wow, this, I mean, doing the stuff that they do, to imitate animal calls, birds, wildlife, hunters, so you can do it. I mean, I used to go squirrel hunt when I was a kid, and I put my lips together and go like that with my lips, and squirrels come out and be boom, I'd shoot them with my 22, but it worked. So, but I've never heard anything falling from a tree knock. And I'm not saying that other people have not done that, because, situations and incidents can so much vary, between personal incidents and sightings and situations. But so basically, I guess I'm saying, who's to say that it can't happen and that it wouldn't or it won't,
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Well, to circle back on your point about the hit the tree so hard that, you don't think a human could recreate it. It makes me think about all the times that I've heard tree falls out in the woods.
Right.
Um, a couple of years ago, we were up in Eastern Washington, and we heard 4 trees fall in, like, I mean, like almost like dominoes, like just in like a few seconds. And
Yeah.
I've always wondered, like, is the Sasquatch pushing the tree down? Is that what it's kind of intimidation behavior? Like, I'm going to make this loud sound. It's going to be like a nuke going off in the woods. Or
Yeah.
is that like they're trying to make a knock and they hit the tree so hard it falls over?
Yeah.
I don't know. It makes you wonder. It's mind boggling, like all the noises you hear out in the woods, and what could cause them and why, and the reasons behind them, all that good stuff.
Yeah. Well, even out here in Wyoming, where I was this past summer, I'm actually going back out again one more time this week up to Wyoming before they close the road up there for the winter between like October, November, and May. But the thing is that I guess you're looking at a creature that's pretty relatively intelligent. I mean, when we know what we know about it, and they have so much varying behavior, and I'm sure they got a lot of behavior that we're not aware of. We haven't even seen or witnessed or experienced before. But when you're out there, I listened to that video of yours at that rest stop. Was that the one you're talking about? Were you at the rest stop that time? You sent it to me
Yeah,
a while back.
that was the one in Canada, and then I heard the one where the 4 trees fell. That was in Washington, but yeah, the one in Canada is one that scared me.
Well, see, the thing is, I mean, let's look at that situation and incident right there. How normal is it, if you will, or natural, that you hear 4 trees fall within a successive short period of time, all of a sudden in the woods? I mean, I've heard, what, 2 or 3 trees fall in my life being out in the woods, where, one of them was really big. That was in California years ago, and then a couple out here. But, it's like 4 trees within, you know what I'm saying? That's just unheard of. I
Yeah,
mean, so that
yeah, it
makes you
was.
think something's doing it. Or, the illogical explanation is that something's knocking those trees down or pushing them down. And it could be something that they do, a trait or a behavioral trait, where they might be saying, get out of here, don't come around. This is my territory, whatever it might be
Yeah,
going
it's
on.
hard to say. I think a lot of researchers insert themselves into Bigfoot behavior.
Yeah,
Where you hear a knock and they're knocking because I'm here. I don't necessarily think
exactly.
that's the case sometimes. I think sometimes they're just knocking because that's, they're communicating with others, or it has nothing to do with you.
Right. Well, that's why when I had this incident occur in July, and I had it again, and then even I heard tree knocks way in the distance when me and Scott were out there a couple weeks ago, and it's like, hey, who knows? I mean, we don't really know. you know.
Yeah.
But I do think that there's some type of there could be a correlation because when I had that incident happen July 15th, I actually got the impression that they were communicating with each other because I was between them. And when I drove down the road and came back and then got out of my car, boom, now it's right behind me. And it was pretty close. And that's another thing, just to let everybody know. That's the third, fourth close incident between Red River, New Mexico, Columbine, Colorado, and now Battle, Wyoming, near encampment that I've had in almost 3 years of being in the field since I started doing this. And that was the thing that I thought that night, being personal about it, is that, or, being open about it. I thought, if these things wanted to do anything to me, you know what I mean? They could have easily, or anybody else for that matter, done it by now. I mean, especially if you look at the tree peaker video on the website, that big one down Battle Lake I made a couple months ago. You see how big they are and how fast they can really move if they want. They're very fast, and it's like a grizzly bear. They got
Yeah.
100 yards. 100
Yeah.
yards. To say a grizzly bear can be on you in 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds.
Yeah. They can do like 30, 35 miles an hour, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why if you read any kind of bear book, especially about brown and black or grizzly bear, they tell you to give it that 100-yard buffer zone because you know what I mean. They teach you that.
Yeah.
But
The problem with that though, Dan, is sometimes the bear has a say.
Well,
and
yeah, and
sometimes you're just walking through the woods and then there's a bear there and it's like, oh my God. Like,
well, yeah, and exactly. And you took the words right out of my mouth because that's a blatant situation or incident or occurrence where situation dictates, as they used to
yeah.
say, and as they used to tell us in SEAL training all the time, situation dictates.
Well,
So,
I'll send you the video I took. I think it was last week, might have been the week before. I picked my little girl dog up. Had to take her out to go potty. She hadn't potty yet this morning, and I'm walking to go out the front door. And as I reach for the door handle, I look and there's a black bear standing, like he just stepped up on my porch. And
oh,
the
wow.
dog sees it the same time I do, so she starts like kind of chuffing. And it took me by surprise because I mean it's like 8:30 in the morning, the sun's out, like we're getting our day
Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
I just kind of pounded on the door and it took off and ran away. But I was like, man, what if I had walked out there and set her down when he came around the corner of the house? Because she would have
Oh,
taken off
yeah.
after him probably. Like it
Right.
was pure luck that worked out the way it did.
Yeah. No, it is because I mean, and the thing about that is, I've seen a lot of videos on YouTube and stuff over the years. Or like I think there was one in California a couple summers ago I loved, and a guy came out of his house and somehow they were filming it from the air. I don't remember all the details. It's been a while, but you can see the guy come down his sidewalk from his house and he goes around and there's a bear around the corner, by his garage and his driveway. And it's really funny because the guy goes, whoa. And even the black bear goes, whoa. And they take off in opposite directions. I mean, it's kind of
Yeah.
funny because you're thinking, I don't know.
There's a good one that's similar to that where there's a bear standing. It's like on somebody's porch, and he's standing like kind of in the corner. And this
Yeah.
old man and this old woman, they walk out of their house, like they're getting, oh, we're going to church or whatever, and they just kind of open the door, walk out, shuffle out, walk down the walk, and take off. And they never want the bear saw them and kind of like did this, kind of like
Yeah.
reared back a little bit. But
Right.
they didn't even look, like no situational awareness whatsoever. They're in the green,
Wow.
and walked right by that bear and didn't even see it.
Yep.
And I'm sure that's probably happened to me once or twice because I know that I'll walk out and go take the garbage out or something, put it in the garage, and I'm sure I've walked past moose, bear, and all kinds of critters and probably even never noticed it.
Well, and that can happen too. I mean, I was walking down or hiking down trail out in Rocky Mountain National Park up by the Finch Lake Mummy Range years ago, and I'm pretty aware from what I've done. And there's sometimes I go into relax mode, but going down trail, I looked up and there's some rocks. Looked up, and I saw this thing hanging over the side. It was a mountain lion.
Oh,
They
geez.
lay on their side. She was laying there with her head back. They lay on their side with their head back, and she was just looking at me. She didn't do nothing. So when I kind of gave her a little bit of berth and went around, and she didn't do anything, I was like, whoa. Matter of fact, when we came back, I looked up there and she was gone. So I thought she didn't bother me. So, I don't know. You never know.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, animals do weird things, man. This
Yep.
summer, my neighbor that lives up the road from me, he owns the property like across from mine, and every summer he sets up a little portable sawmill and he cuts wood for his fireplace up there. And my wife and I, we go out and we walk the dogs a couple times a day, and we were going to walk down the road where he has a sawmill set up. Well, he was out cutting wood, and we're walking, and all of a sudden my wife stops me and she goes, "Look." And right across the street from him, this is just a little dirt road. It's not a 2-lane road or anything. There
Yeah.
was a moose standing there watching him cut wood. Now he's got this sawmill running, and if you'd have asked me, hey, you think that moose is going to go over there and check out that sawmill? I'd have been like, not a chance, not while it's running, like that thing's he's going to hear that and he's going to go the other way.
Right.
And I was just flabbergasted. I'm like, because my wife's like, should we go down there and tell him? And I'm like, no, I
Yeah.
think it's okay. I don't think that moose is gonna like get any closer. But the fact that he was running this sawmill and the
Yeah.
moose was just standing there, just watching him, just like, what the hell is that guy doing? And
Yeah.
just, I couldn't believe it. Like, I
Well,
can
that,
understand like a primate type animal, like Bigfoot,
yep.
being curious and like, I'm gonna go see what's going on over there. But I wouldn't
Yeah.
expect that kind of behavior out of a moose.
Well, I've seen animals act like that before, watching us and doing stuff like. So I had it happen a couple times when I was in the teams as a SEAL up by in Kodiak, up at Anton Larson Bay, and places like that where animals were curious and I've had a couple animals in my life come up to me, like right here where I'm talking about this incident in
Yeah.
Medicine Bow in July. I had another fox. I've got pictures and video of her. I named her Frida. She got to the point where she'd come out when I was there and she'd come up and sit down beside me in the dark. She'd be running
Yeah.
around. So, so you don't know.
Yeah.
Animals,
Yeah, but
I
you're
mean,
not running a gas powered engine, like you're
well,
not.
yeah, but
That
that's
was
the
the thing
thing.
that flabbergasted me because I had like there
Yeah,
was a moment where I'm like, is that moose deaf?
yeah.
Is it maybe that's the answer? Maybe the moose
Well,
can
they can
hear
be
something.
curious. And then I
Yeah.
think, like Doc used to tell me, animals can have different types of dispositions and personalities, just like people do. So who knows? Doc told me that story that time about the Sasquatch female sitting on the creek looking down the hill for a bit. I forgot where it was. And anyway, the thing sat there for a while and the people saw it at a logging site. They were logging and it finally got up and left and they went up there and found imprints where it had sat by the edge of this creek on the bank of the creek, and it was a female, and she left an imprint of her buttocks and thighs and her, you
Lady
know,
parts.
yeah, lady parts right there, and they made a cast of it. But I guess there were multiple witnesses to that saw her, sit down, and she'd sat there for a while watching them doing her thing at this logging site, which when I heard that story a while back, I was like, wow, that's pretty amazing. Which, I guess you're right. Animals can be different, and you might catch them on a good day when they're thinking, what the hell's going on here? What are they doing? I don't know.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. I just couldn't believe that moose would get that close to a
so was it a
a.
male or a female?
I believe. Well, it was summertime, so I think it was a female.
Female.
But yeah, it's so weird that that guy's running, and you would think like loud noises like that would repel moose or any kind of animal really, and he was
Yeah.
just sitting across the road, or she was just sitting across the road, just kind of what's going on over there, like chewing on some leaves, like that guy's cutting some wood.
Yeah. I put a joke like that uh, on my website on the big time one of the pictures where there's a Bigfoot standing there. It's a really good AI one I like. and I put the line. He's like looking out, and I put on there just as a joke. I put, "What the hell are they doing now?" Like he was thinking that. What the hell are they doing now? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you don't know. Animals can be curious, I'm sure.
I tell you what, they were doing some road work out in the area where I like to look around, and I've always wanted to stop and ask some of those road crews, like, you guys ever see anything weird out here? And but I just haven't done it. I don't want to like walk up to active road crew while they're working and be like, "Hey guys, let's talk about Bigfoot."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, yeah. That's good stuff. I mean, God only knows how many incidents and sightings there have been. I mean, over the past since the Jerry Crew thing started up in the Sierras, I guess. But
Yeah.
I mean, when I was at the Bigfoot Days Festival in Estes Park back in April, I met tons of people that day during that thing. Me and Pat Howard. Pat's a retired Marine, and he's part of the big staff. He went up there and helped me man our booth or table for the day. And even in that day, I'll never forget it because it's the first time I actually had the opportunity to, sit with a large amount of people during the course of a day. We were there for 12 hours that day. By the time we set out, did the thing, ate it, then broke down, then we stuck around, did some socializing with people. But I couldn't believe some of the stories and incidents and sightings and accounts that people from just about every walk and age of life stopped at the table and conveyed to me that day. I was like you're kidding. They're like, no, my husband and I saw it coming around the bend. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
the amount of stories was just phenomenal. But like Doc said, I mean, there's a huge correlation between their habitat and black bear, which I've become convinced of because between Red River, New Mexico, where I've got legitimate sightings and incidents, and Hans Peak, Colorado, and Summit Creek area and Columbine, all the way up into Wyoming, between encampment and pretty much Battle Lake, and I wouldn't go as far west as Savory and Bags, but that area is the place where I picked to do my research, and I'm sticking to it. Just those three spots. And I'm actually convinced now, getting back on track, that these two Sasquatch that I been hearing this summer or have heard, got video of, I think they're the same two from down south, about 25 miles plus away to the south from there. Because if you go in a straight line, you go right back down into Colorado, and you go through the Hog Park area into the Big Red area, and you're back across the border into that area between Columbine and Big Red and Summit Creek in that area. So I actually think that these are the same two creatures, the male and the female, and I think they moved up into the Wyoming area where I was, I guess you could say, interacting with them this summer. And they're the same two that I caught or had interaction or video and pictures and tree knocks with last summer and into the fall and winter, down south.
Yeah. Well, 25 miles isn't that big of a stretch for animal territory, especially a larger animal.
Well, and even in that area, Clark, Colorado, and Hans Peak, and Summit Creek and Columbine, the mule deer and the elk, they kind of move away in the winter when it gets colder and the snow gets deeper or heavier, and they kind of go down to the Wolf Ranch area out through down to the southwest, I guess you could call it. Or they come down where it's a little milder, and like toward the Hayward Craig area, stuff like that. And then they move back up there in the summer because everybody that I know up there, it's been up there a while, the guides and people and friends of mine, they said, yeah, because it's amazing. In Clark, Colorado, which is about a half hour north of Steamboat, you can go from Clark in the winter and just drive 5 or 10 minutes up the mountain, if you will, toward Willow Creek and Hans Peak Lodge. And the intensity and the cold and the amount of snow that they get just in that 15 mile block from like going up and over is amazing, because it's literally milder down by where the Clark store is, heading back down the Steamboat once you come down from Willow Creek and Hans Peak Lodge. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Well,
that's just like,
the weather's got to change somewhere.
yeah, and it's just like when I used to live in California, in San Diego, all those years I was in the Navy, stationed in Coronado. Um, it's amazing that from the coastal strip of Southern California, you can drive 45 minutes out west through El Cajon and Lemon Grove and go out to where La Posta and Incopah, and then take Sunrise Highway up, to Julian and Cuyamaca. And it's amazing that between the coastal strip west going north and then even south down to the Baja, you have literally 4 climate cells in that 4 points of the compass there. Where, like, you can be sitting on a 75-degree day down in San Diego, Coronado, Oceanside on Christmas Day, it's 70 degrees, and you look at the TV and see they got 6 feet of snow the night before up in Cuyamaca and Julian up in the mountains. Not even, I think it's kind of neat because, I remember a lot of people know it that have lived in that area. It's cool because nothing, you can drive an hour or two and go up and ski and have a blast in the winter at Big Bear and places like that. So the diversity that you have in climate and how it varies from place to place. And I think getting back on note is that's what's causing these 2 creatures that I've been watchdogging, if you want to call it, or tracing for the last year or so. I'm pretty convinced that they're moving north and south between the seasons through the Zirkle Mountains, if you will, up into that area. So I'm going to go back up there a couple times before they close the road for the winter, because they closed the road up there between Encampment and Savory and Bags, and you can't get up there. The snow gets pretty bad, so I won't be going up there in the winter.
Yeah. I'm the same boat here. There's a couple places where I like to go poke around, and once it hits a certain time of year, I limit my time going out there, just because, one, we get a lot of rain and wind around October, and then eventually it turns to snow. But when it starts raining, the roads get really really cruddy, and they don't maintain them, and they get full of potholes, and it's pretty bad.
Well, the good thing about winter stuff, like I found out last year, you saw some of the slides at the conference in May, is that I found some good snow prints in the snow. They're near between it's actually between Columbine and Summit Creek. And I even got that one picture that I'm convinced now, I had it on Billy Willard's Sasquatch Watch radio show a while back too. And even with Mark Alley on Berserk Bobcat, the tree peaker, the female, looking at me over the top of the pine tree. If you look at that thing close enough, you can tell it's a creature standing there. You can see her face. You can see her finger, her thumb, where she reached up and pulled the pine tree or the limb down. And then if you look down at the bottom, she's got her left foot. She's got her left foot forward, 1 foot back, and you can see under the branch of the pine tree or the evergreen in the snow, you can see her toes. You can definitely see the front part of her foot with her toes, her big toe, which is ironic because it looks like everybody that saw it right away, they were like, it looks like the foot on your logo you designed. I said, I know that's kind of weird, but anyway. So yeah, on the winter you can do a lot. Like I found that really good set of prints down in Red River winter a year ago that matched the footprint in the mud at the Chevron Mine guard shack. It was the same exact footprint, 3 years apart, as you could tell, because the foot's deformed or it's been injured severely. You could tell that it healed weird, but stuff like that. The list goes on and on, but the big thing. Go ahead.
I was going to say, spring's a really good time to get out, because the roads will start to thaw out and clear up, and then you've still got snow in the tree line and in the woods. so you can do some tracking in the snow. But spring, that's a good testament to getting out in the early spring and looking around.
Yeah, and spring's good, especially when you get the muddy season, because animals are starting to move around, coming back because it's warming up, and you get a lot of good tracks, and stuff like that. Especially like, I admit I say it a lot. Doc Meldrum, he recommended and suggested a lot of things to me and taught me a lot of stuff, and I do it, and it's panning out, and it's proven to be fruitful because like stream, riverbanks, creeks, ponds, lakes, everything's got to drink water. And, animals water every day. And like I always say, one of the big things with me is can't even imagine how much a full grown Sasquatch needs on a daily basis, probably for water. I mean, because like what? I mean, I know a lot about horses. I think the estimate is an average horse drinks 8 to 10 gallons of water a day. That's what they say, something like that. So
Yeah.
imagine what a Bigfoot's going to need. So that's why I've done a lot of work around creeks and streams and lakes. But the big thing that happened, getting on it, throw this out while we're going here today, is had a really phenomenal event occur in early August up there between encampment and Lost Creek, where I've been in Battle Lake. I heard some noise and stuff one night, got out of the car, because that's what I do. I drive around, get out of the car, walk, and stand in the dark. And I had a troop of elk, including a couple big old bucks, come by in the dark. They freaked out when they realized I was there, and I recorded it. But I heard some stuff, and I went down the road, and I was standing by this guardrail in the dark. And because what I do is I do SEAL stuff. Once I hear something, I just stop moving and I sit and be still and listen. But I heard a lot of movement in the woods off this road, and then it diminished. And the thing that gets me, I was going to make this point, is that a lot of times when you're out there, when you were talking about rain and weather, that can thwart what you're doing, especially at night, because wind and rain and stuff will block these, because these are your eyes at night in the dark. And when that happens, I just leave. I can't hear nothing, And that night I was hearing something, and the wind picked up. So I went back to my tent, campground. It was about 1 a.m. Turned in for the night, and I came back to that spot just out of curiosity the very next day. And sure enough, I got out of my car, and I heard tree knocks. And I recorded a little bit of it, and I even got it in the recording where I said, hey, this is the first time I've heard tree knocks during the day. And at this road pullout where I was in off Route 70 out there, I looked down to my left as I was facing the woods to the north, and I saw this big old black thing on the side of the road on this side of the woods, and on the shoulder in the gravel of the guardrail there on the side of the road where I'd parked. And I walked out and looked around, and there was a troop of ravens there. There must have been 8-10 ravens, and they were all over this big black mass. And so I was like, what the hell is that? So I went walking down the guardrail, and sure enough, the ravens took off, and there was a big, huge pile of scat. You should have seen how big it was. I took some pictures of it, and I knew right away that's not a bear. It's way too big. In this time of the year, elk and deer are going to be doing the pellet thing. They're not on their winter diet per se.
Yeah.
And this pile of scat was pretty big. It was huge and phenomenal, and it was in sections, in thirds. And I got pictures of it that I'm going to put on my website, and we'll probably put it in the next video, for this show. But it was in thirds. The front part was all gnarled, they call it, and it was consisted of, you could tell, vegetation and bark, and what looked like shards of bark or some type of, vegetation. The middle part was pitted like a golf ball,
Uh-huh.
and the flies were all over that. I was amazed when I got up to it because that middle third section was covered by flies. And when I shoot them off, then the back part was smooth like regular scat or poop or feces. And I thought, wow, I've never seen anything like this. But I was amazed at how the flies were focused on what was ever, whatever it was that was component or consisted of that middle third section. That's where they were at. So I took pictures of it, put my foot there. And the big thing about this was the big thing was that you could see where in the gravel, you could see a distinctive 2 heel marks where the creature had squatted down, and the heel marks from its foot were in the gravel where it squatted down to take a dump, being blunt about it, and deposited the fecal matter. And just being blunt with everybody, I shared it with Dr. Meldrum, and he agreed. And this wasn't far from his passing. And he even wrote me back and said, hey, it's phenomenal, because it's pretty incredible, the heel marks there. And I said, yeah, so you could tell that this was where, something very big, not human, not a bear, not an animal, had literally squatted down, and you could see the marks that it left from its feet and heels, which would make sense with something that's maybe over 850, 1,100 pounds, because I'm sure it was the male had done its business and left the marks. But when we do the show later on in the show, I'll have a short video that you can air, and I'll have some pictures of that. But it's one of the last things I consulted with Doc Meldrum on before he passed away on September the 11th. So got that going for us, and I'm just going to go back there and check out the area.
Yeah, I'd be curious to get a sample of that and have it tested for parasites and see what was in there, because I've always heard, like, and being in law enforcement and stuff, we were always told, like, don't send poop to the crime lab. They don't want it. Two, it's pretty hard to get DNA from feces. And I had a gentleman I think he was a veterinarian, approached me one time and said, well, if you do find some Bigfoot scat, you should collect it, but instead of having it tested for DNA, have it tested for parasites.
Right.
Because if there's a parasite in there that's only found in like apes or primates, then you might be onto something there. You might actually have Bigfoot poop.
Yeah, and I talked to Doc Meldrum about that when I saw him in his lab, because I went up and visited him for my yearly visit in July. About 2 months ago today, I was with him, in his lab at the University at Idaho State in Pocatello, Idaho, and we talked about that. And he was talking about the delicacies and the window that's pretty critical and crucial when it comes to getting DNA out of fecal matter, where it's got to be in a solution and stuff, which he was teaching me how to do, or familiarizing me with, right before he passed. But when it comes to fecal matter and doing stuff like that, I think there's a really short critical window where you've got to get a sample of it and get it in a bag with the solution to get it to the lab for them to look at it. It's not like other stuff, because after it goes past this certain window, you really wasting your time. If I remember him telling me that. But I got the pictures. They'll be in the video. We can air them on the show, later on.
Yeah, and plus, it's kind of funny because there's a couple of cases where somebody would, maybe their building would get burgled or something like that, and the burglar would leave something behind, and they always wanted us to take it, and send it to the crime lab, and they would, I remember one time in particular, a office building here got broken into, and somebody left a present in one of the offices, and I remember, like, I told him, I'm like, I'm not picking that up. I'm not collecting that. And I remember walking out, and I remember hearing somebody in the background go, so much for CSI. And
Yeah.
I postscript, we caught the guy anyway, but
Yeah.
but yeah, it's
Cool.
just it's the CSI effect. People watch TV and they're like, oh, they can take
Yeah.
this eyelash and like put it in the
Yeah.
computer and it'll show them a picture of the guy or something. So
Yeah. It's kind of Hollywood stuff to a degree too, I guess. So they
yeah,
say, right? So yeah. So yeah, that's a good rundown on what went on with
man, it sounds like you had at least a more exciting summer than I did. So
well, the tree knocks are good. I only
uh,
recorded 5 of them, and they're on my website if you want to hear them. On the big picture page, that's where we put the video at big picture. So you can go there, and then some other good stuff like my elk and mule deer and the fox. At fox there at this incident site in Battle Creek in Wyoming and Medicine Bow, she became really friendly. I couldn't believe every time I turned around during the day or the dark, this little fox was there. I mean, one night she walked right up on me. I was standing there by the edge of the road and I was amazed at how quiet they can be. But I turned around, she was standing like 5 feet from me in the dark and she just sat there. So if you want to look at the or listen to the tree knocks, and I'll tell you before you listen to them, it's not the whole sequence of tree knocks that took place that night or morning over an hour and 20-minute period. I just recorded this about 6.5 minutes of knocks because it was where I caught and edited it. I caught the 2 knocks from the creek, and then the third knock is from the distance, and you can hear how faint it is.
mhm.
And then the female, which I'm convinced is a female in the creek, she did 2 more knocks after the male responded. So you get 2 knocks from her that are loud. Then you'll hear a faint one on the website recording that you can tell is in the distance. And then you hear 2 more loud ones across the road from the female. And that's when I thought, I'll put this in there because that's enough. It's 6 minutes. You don't need to do the whole hour and 20. But those 5 knocks in a 6 minute, I think it's 6 minutes, 20 seconds is enough for you to hear. Even when Jeff heard him, Doc Meldrum, he was like, we sat in his office and listened to him at the university in July. So, stuff like that's on the website. You can go and look at it. The tree peaker at Battle Lake and everything else. I've got it posted at Bigfoot investigativegroup.com.
BigfootInvestigativeGroup.com. I'll try to remember to throw a link to that in the show notes.
Yeah.
And so other than so we talked about this last summer, so let's talk about next summer. I know we got something planned for July. What's going on in July?
Yeah, it's going to be fun. I had the privilege, you were there in May at our big conference 25 in Broomfield, Colorado. You met them too, Mark and Andrea Alley. They're from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. And Mark does a podcast called Berserk Bobcat, which is really great. But I've been on his show, met him at the conference, and pretty much, to be honest with you, with their persuasion and Doc Meldrum's, because Doc wanted to move it up there too. He was all for it, being blunt about it. We're going to have the big conference 2026 next year in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. So we're looking at a big turnout. It's going to be the weekend of July 24th to the 26th. We're going to have a Friday night social at the Best Western Plus, tentative right now. That's where we're going to have the conference there, but we're going to have a Friday night social on the 24th. On the 25th, which is Saturday, you and me and our new guest, we're going to have to replace Doc Meldrum since he passed away last week. Sad to say. But we're looking at getting another new third speaker. So we're going to speak on Saturday, 25th at the Best Western Plus, starting at 9 a.m. You'll probably start it next year. Then our next new speaker will go second and I'll go last. Then we're going to have a question and answer session that afternoon with the audience for an hour or 2. Then on Sunday morning, we decided for next year's big conference, we're going to have a workshop that you and I are going to run. They can decide which one they want to go to. Like a football clinic, you can go to which presentation you want, or any other conference. And then Sunday afternoon, after we do the workshops, we're going to have an open mic storytelling session with the people in the audience. We'll give them a couple hours to just tell stories. I have a 5-minute limit on each person, so everybody can get a chance. But that's what we're going to do next year. Then we're also going to have at the beginning of the conference on Saturday morning, we're going to have a little presentation in a moment to honor and memorialize and show our appreciation, have a moment of silence for Doc Meldrum, who passed away on September the 11th. So that's going to be the big conference, pretty much Reader's Digest version, in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, next summer, between July 24th and 26th. Yep.
When do you expect tickets to go on sale for that, Dan?
Right now, you can get your tickets now at the big website. You go to the conference page, and we've got a temporary flyer on there right now. Telling everybody about Doc's passing, because he was our keynote guest speaker again. So until we get things straightened out with a new speaker, who we're working on now, we'll put that information with a new schedule on there as soon as possible. But if you want to make your reservations now and buy a ticket and reserve your spot, you can just go to bigfootinvestigativegroup.com. It's all one word, lowercase, and go to the conference page and scroll down, and you'll see a credit card field where you can make your payment and make your reservation. And we'll check you in when you get there in July next year. So it's that easy.
Yeah. Well, I told I've got a buddy of mine that's a retired sheriff's deputy that lives in Coeur d'Alene, and I told him about it, and he's pretty excited. I think he's going to definitely be there.
Good. Well, we're moving it because, like I said, Mark and Andrea recommended it, and they talked to me about it, which just let everybody know, Mark and Andrea Alley, they're two of the greatest people I've met of late. They are two great people. I mean, needless to say, and that's putting it mildly. And we're really looking forward. And like I said, Doc Meldrum wanted to do it. I mean, just being blunt and honest with everybody. I know Doc knew a lot of people out there, and that's great. He had a lot of relationships, and, we're all blessed and very fortunate to have crossed paths with him, known him in this life, and worked with him, because he's an asset that's going to be irreplaceable. I don't care what anybody says. It's never going to be. It's like my grandma used to say, when they made you, they threw away the mold.
Yeah.
You've heard that one.
Well, before we got started, I was telling you about how if I ever found any like really good evidence that was like groundbreaking, like I always thought like, well, Jeff will be my first call, like I'll get him I'll get it to him or get him here. And, now that he's gone, that's kind of it's like, man, what are you going to do?
Well, no, it's sad, because we talked about that when I saw him a couple months ago in July. I said, if I hit pay dirt on this, I said, I want you to be involved in it. So he was all for that. And we'd talked and discussed that in his office 2 months ago today, which is, we're recording this on September 15th. So yeah, 2 months ago today, July 15th. So, I'm going to miss him, and I'm going to plug on and move forward with big. And if I hit pay dirt, I'm going to definitely do what I'm doing and continue to do it, not only as a person, but a professional and a retired SEAL, because I want to. But if I do hit pay dirt, I'm going to make sure that Doc's years of efforts and work, what he did for everybody and everything in the Bigfoot research community, is validated, and most of all appreciated and honored, because, Doc left this life and world not really having any closure, in my opinion, to a degree. So if I do something big, and validate it, or hit pay dirt, I'm going to make sure he's validated on that level about every way I can think of. So that's my long-term goal and impetus, for moving forward from here.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be missed, man. I didn't
Oh,
even think about. I should have brought my. I've got a track cast back there that I bought from him when I first met him. Like, oh geez, I don't know how many years ago it was.
yeah,
And of course, it's got a signature on the back, and
yeah.
I just remember like he always would take time out and just explain things to you and talk to you. Sometimes he talked over my head a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, but
No, he did me too. I mean,
yeah,
there was more than a few times because he'd get going. And like he told me on the phone once and to my face, he goes, sometimes, Dan, I don't mean to be verbose. He said verbose. I'm like, I said, well, hey, when you know what you know. I mean, that's like me. I've tried to talk to people before about being a SEAL and, and stuff I've done. And I'm going, hey, maybe, it's hard to explain. Maybe you had to be there. It's really complicated. It's not as easy as a lot of people think. You know what I mean? So I
yeah,
remember he said that. But yeah, I mean, he was beyond a plethora and a wellspring of, I call it infinite expanse almost of knowledge. What he had in that, mind of his. It's pretty amazing. It's amazing.
yeah.
It's
Well,
emotional. I've gotten
his
emotional.
knowledge of just the mechanics and the way the feet work and the inner
Yep.
workings of that. And of
Yeah.
course, he's trying to explain all this to me, and I barely know what size of shoe I wear, and
Yeah.
it's just it was man. Eh, I remember I asked him one time. There's a picture that's going around of this uncontacted tribe, and
Yeah.
it's taken from an airplane, and you can see like the feet. These people don't wear shoes, obviously, and their feet look like this. Their toes are like super far apart.
Yeah.
And one time when we were at a conference, I think it was the one in Fairbanks, I showed him that picture, and I'm like, how come we don't see like how come Bigfoot's feet don't look like this? Because they don't wear shoes. And he's like, let me show you. And he busted out all these pictures of track casts that he has and he's seen where there
Yeah.
is like some significant toe splay on
Yeah.
those. But he
Yeah.
also explained to me why we don't see so many that you that don't look like that. Bigfoot aren't exactly, especially once they reach adulthood, they're probably not like clambering up trees. And they don't need that prehensile toe to grip, the tree trunks and stuff.
Right.
So, I mean, just boom, like no prep time, nothing. I just showed him the
Yeah.
picture, and he's like, "Let me explain it to you," and he just like
Yeah.
lays it out. It was
Yeah. That's
awesome.
the way he was. He was a phenomenal person. And that's another thing about Doc, since we're talking about him. It didn't take me long to realize that he was a unique individual as far as his just inner being, his whole inner essence. I mean, you could tell he was one of those people that was kind of blessed with a personality where after I got to know him for a while over the past 3 years, I realized that, man, he seems like he's one of those people that he can just assimilate and bond and just connect with just about anybody that he meets. I mean, and I think there's a lot of people that don't possess that skill or that trait or that gift in their life because I've met them, and, I'm like that to a degree, I admit, but yeah,
Yeah,
all around, he was a phenomenal person too, and he
yeah,
cared. That's the thing about it is that you could tell, and maybe you saw it when we were at the conference in May here in Broomfield at the big conference at the Omni. It's that it's just like he was just nice to everybody he came in contact with, to a degree, if putting that mildly. Or, but he was just a phenomenal human being. And yeah, right. No, never going to replace him, and he's going to be sorely missed. And like I said, if I hit pay dirt with anything in the future, I'm dedicating it to his honor and his memory, and to validate and substantiate his great life and his great career. Not only for me, but to be honest with you, we had dinner 2 months ago tomorrow, me and his wife and him at the Texas Roadhouse. Lauren asked me that question at the dinner table that night, and about, are you going to make Jeff a part of your stuff if you hit pay dirt? And I told her, yeah, I am. So I'm holding that promise to Lauren too, his wife and his family, if it means anything to them, because I think Doc Meldrum, if anybody does hit pay dirt, they need to show their appreciation by associating him with it, and the find or the discovery or the event that, validates what he did in his life. Because, he busted his, scientifically, personally, then even impetus and passion wise in his life for this thing. And I think that, now that he's not with us anymore, it'll be a good thing to validate his work, with somebody or with your work. If one of us are lucky enough or fortunate enough or fortuitous enough, to what I call hitting pay dirt. So that's
I hope we get that opportunity. But speaking to how personable he was, like the last time, so the day after the conference at Broomfield, I ran into him in the lobby as I was leaving, and he was, I think, getting ready to leave too. And we sat and we talked, I don't know, probably 15, 20 minutes we talked, and we talked about, I was telling him about like Costco, like he was asking me about living in Alaska. I was telling him about how we, like go to Costco and stuff, just normal everyday things, like nothing,
yeah,
nothing about Bigfoot, just, a couple of
yeah.
dudes, talking about stuff. And it was a great conversation. And I'm very sad that I'm not going to get to hang out with him in July, that he's not with us anymore. And
No,
I'm very much looking forward to it.
no, it's going to be a big hole to fill too, because, like I said, it's not just us; it's innumerable amounts of people that he shared his life with in his work. And then you look at you look all over the web and the YouTube and everything. There's just, and the amount of people that were, expressing their condolences last week. And when the story, even my buddy Mike, who's a member, he met Mike. Mike wrote me and said, "Hey, the stories are starting to pop up, online and everywhere now about Jeff's passing." So yeah, we're going to miss him dearly. But if it's any consolation too, on a sidebar, as I say, if you're a Bigfoot enthusiast, you've known Dr. Meldrum, and you're out there now, because there's a lot of us out there now, and it's a team effort. We're spread out all over, but it's a team effort. If you hit pay dirt, I'd emphatically and sincerely ask you to make Dr. Meldrum a part of it, to validate and honor and remember and memorialize him for what he's contributed. Because the big thing is, I watched the Bigfoot enigma from the sidelines for decades, from the time I was a boy. From the first time I saw Legend at Boggy Creek, and I saw the Patterson-Gimlin film footage on an episode of In Search of years ago with Leonard Nimoy. I kind of sat back and made my own personal assessment of things as a professional, especially during my years as a SEAL, during my career and everything I did. I always watch certain people, and I'm not saying this to anybody out there to be derogatory, insulting, or preferential, or sanctimonious, whatever you wanted to say, but for some particular reason, I gravitated toward Dr. Jeff Meldrum, being blunt about it, because everything that he did was so high end, was so legitimate, and also from my training and tracking, footprints, fingerprints, dermal ridges and lines, pressure, substrate, everything that he went into, it all started hitting me. And I'm going, hey, wait a minute. And when I saw the Skookum cast thing come out, that incident, it's been 30 years ago, 20 years ago, whenever it was, I forgot. When I saw the amount of effort and involvement and the people that were involved with Jeff, with the Skookum cast, that was the incident that really made me go, wait a minute, this is the guy. If I do this later on after I retire from my full career, like I planned on doing and I'm doing now, I'm going to go down that road, consult with him and get involved with him. And matter of fact, when I first met Doc 3 years ago, he wrote me, because I was writing him going, hey, Dr. Meldrum, I'm retired now. I'm going to go into this. I'm starting this Bigfoot investigative group, and wrote him a few times, and I didn't hear nothing back from him. And I thought, well, maybe he's swamped or he hears from too many people. I don't know. remember vaguely the stuff that was going through my mind. But he finally wrote me back after about 3 or 4 emails. And I remember him writing in there in his email, he said, "Wow, you sure are persistent." And I was like, I thought, well, I am, because I'm going to do this. It's kind of like a life plan I've had, because I think people have heard me say it before. I've done everything in my life I set out to do when I was a boy. I have, including this. This is it. And then once this is over, I was a SEAL, been a dad, coached football, worked for the Pittsburgh Steelers, got my 3 degrees. I worked at the University of Colorado, strength and football there. You know what I mean? All these things.
Yeah.
We stayed online and did them. And when I retired from Warcom in Coronado back in December 22, I literally told my friends the night of my party that, hey, my retirement party celebration, I said, this is what I'm going to do. And they were like, and I was amazed, because you can see, you look at my website on Big, or our website, excuse me, you'll see everybody's on there that I was a cop and a SEAL with, and vice versa. And they're all on board, and we're doing good. So we're going to continue to move forward and keep driving, and, hopefully hit pay dirt. Because like I joke, my ultimate goal is to be sitting on a stump, deep in the woods, with a little fire going and some s'mores, a couple of cans of root beer, maybe a bag of Doritos and some salsa, and have one come out and sit down with me and eat it with me, and we film it. We'll do s'mores with Sasquatch. I mean, that's a joke. But, I mean,
you're not going to shoot a Bigfoot to get a body. You're just going to give him diabetes.
No, yeah, I'm not going to shoot. You think eating some s'mores would get him into the diabetic realm? I don't know.
Probably one s'more is more sugar than a Bigfoot's ever had in his life.
Well, that's another thing too. It's like, I wonder what would happen with a creature like that if you gave them a lot of sugar when they're not used to having that much sugar. So they'd probably be the sugar shockers thing.
I don't know. I've heard of them. People seeing them dig through dumpsters and trash, so they can probably. We don't know anything about their metabolism. They could probably handle quite a bit.
Well, if you read Doc's book, Legend Meets Science, I mean, he goes into a lot of stuff on their long gut and the size of their gut. And that's why when I saw the fecal matter a month or so ago, I was like, that can't be anything known, not normal out here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So whatever. But yeah, it's going to be a good conference next year. We're looking at having a good turnout, and there's a lot of people that are going to be involved in this. And I'm going to be on the Berserk Bobcat with Mark here again in the near future, and I'm going to continue to be on here with you. And then I'll make token appearances too on Sasquatch Watch Radio back in Virginia with my buddy Gary out there, because Billy Willard, the founder of Sasquatch Watch Radio and the host for years of it, he recently kind of retired from it, and he went into a different line of work in his life, which entails ministry in prisons and jails. So Gary Kendrick's going to be doing the show, but I'll still be on there. And then I don't know if it gets to the point where anybody wants to be a part of the conference next year in Coeur d'Alene, you can contact me at Dan@BigfootInvestigativegroup.com. No, it's long, but we did it like that intentionally, and it's all lowercase, no spacing. And you can go to the website at BigfootInvestigativegroup.com. And if you want me to be on any of your other shows or do any appearances or talk or be on a podcast, be more than happy to do it. Because after 3 years of doing this now, and with 50 years of this stuff under my belt, and I have studied it and researched it for 50 years, and now I'm actively involved for 3 years. I got enough, evidence and stuff under my belt to start doing that. And we'd really look forward to doing it, to be happy to do it and share our findings with you, and, just spread the wealth. That's what we're doing here, spread the wealth.
We'll get you out there. Hopefully some people will reach out. And I know you were talking about the workshops at the conference next year, and granted, we still got a lot of time to work on it. But I would personally, I would like to do something on collecting evidence, maybe a little how to
Yeah.
collect evidence, how to bag things, how to store things, stuff like
Right.
that. Which, I think there's probably, a lot of people romanticize looking for Bigfoot and stuff like that, but then they don't,
Hmm.
they kind of ignore the, well, what do I do when I find something section of it.
Right.
So I think, evidence collection is probably something that a lot of people that are interested in Bigfoot probably need a little bit more
Right.
education in. Yeah.
Right. And I've even got a lady that Doc had talked about when I was with him in July. I'm going to reach out to her because she's actually, Doc was telling me about, she makes and sells these kits now, for DNA sampling. 'Cause
Hmm.
you got to know what you're doing, especially with fecal matter, to get a good DNA sample. And we were talking about that. So I'm going to talk to her and see if there's even a possibility that she might um, want to come to the conference and do a workshop on it. Because I'm going to do a workshop on gear. I've had so many people ask me about the gear I use. So I'm going to do that, go over some stuff and the devices and how I do it minimally, because it's like I told a lot of people, and I don't mean to be insulting or anything with this or sound like I'm being some type of, but I don't go out in the field with just anybody after what I've done for 25 years as a SEAL. And because I wouldn't expect anybody to do things the way that we do them, with the quiet and the patience that has to be learned and honed. I mean, if you're a good hunter,
Yeah.
you're going out looking for elk or whatever, but going out and sitting in the dark like I do, and that's what I do. I sit in the dark. I go out at sunset. I come home at anywhere between 1:30, 2:33 in the, or back to my tent or hotel room. The only time I've stayed in a hotel room was at Red River because there really wasn't anybody, or not anybody, but anywhere to camp because all the campgrounds were closed at that time of the year. And in New Mexico, they don't have dispersed camping like they have in Colorado and Wyoming. So like that's like right now when I go out tomorrow or the next day back to Medicine Bow, all the campgrounds are closed now for the winter, regular campgrounds. So I'm just going to go get a dispersed spot, and sit out there. But sitting out there and being quiet and patient and doing a lot of things that you learn to do as a SEAL and other guys that have been SF and Spec Ops. It takes a hell of a lot of training and a hell of a lot of metal. And, just being blunt and honest about it too, SEALs do things a lot different from other people. Believe me, we do. I mean, even some, and I'm not saying this is derogatory, but even some of the SF guys I worked with in other groups back in the day, you could tell that there was a big difference in the way, we do things. And so
Yeah.
that's why I'm sticking to my guns. And another thing I've learned already that these are very, I'm gonna say this candidly today here on your show, Beans or Larry, is that these creatures know what the hell's going on. They are very smart. They're very intuitive. They're very insightful, and they're cryptid, but they're also very precautious. They're very reserved, and they're very curious, and they know what you're doing. And it doesn't take much for them. I've learned already in 3 years from what I've seen and being close to a couple of them, like I have between New Mexico, Colorado, and Wyoming, is that they're apprehensive. And I think that if you keep plugging away, I say, and that's where I'm at now with these two that I've been seeing for the last year and coming in contact with in Colorado and Wyoming, I really think that there's going to be a point where you can work your way into them, where
Yeah.
you can gain their trust and you can gain their confidence, and they realize that you're not a threat. And that's what I'm working on with this whole thing. It might take some time, but I honestly believe that if you do things right, which I will talk about at the conference a little next year, I've decided I'm going to divulge a little bit of this. It's kind of like what Ron Moorhead did, with the amount of information that Ron got from the Sierra Sounds in his project back in the 70s. I mean, it opens a door where you can go a step further into bonding with them and assimilating with them. And I joke around and call making friends with Kool-Aid. Remember that old commercial, "Make friends with Kool-Aid"? And that's what my ultimate goal is. And I told Doc that many times, is that I plan to get to the point where I have them get used to me, gain my confidence and trust, and vice versa, and amicably and mutually get to the point where, even if it's at a standoffish distance, I still want to get to the point where I'm at ground zero. Kind of like in the scene at the end of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. The aliens came out of the mothership. They were all standing around. They just didn't walk up, but they were still there, and everybody saw them. And then the lead alien came out and raised its arm up, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
At least they had an interaction, and they had some type of, and that's the kind of thing that I'm working forward to, or working towards. And I'm hoping that the way that I'm doing things, I think that right now I'm heading down that path and in that direction. And I really actually believe that there's a strong possibility that that could happen in the next year or so. Hopefully, maybe before next July.
Man, I hope so. That would be awesome. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, because that's
Yeah.
well, not only that, it's for everybody. I'm not just doing it for myself. I'm doing it for everybody in the Bigfoot community. Because I mean, if we're really working toward, like Jim Meyer, you met Jim,
Mhm.
from Bailey, God love him. He's out Bailey, Colorado, runs Sasquatch Outpost. Jim is a big proponent of that. Is that, like, can't we all just work together? You heard him put that word out at the conference in May. And, we're spread out. We're all over the country, all the way up into Canada and Alaska. And we can't be omnipotent. But sooner or later, I'm hoping that if somebody does hit pay dirt at that type of significant, monumental level, that will be willing to bring everybody together in a big, huge get together, not like Burning Man, not Burning Man, but you know what I'm saying?
Burning
And
Squatch.
yeah, but have everybody sit there and go, hey, look, here it is. This is what
Oh
we
no, wait.
want.
I got it. Squatch stock.
Yeah, whatever, I mean, you know, like a Squatch Woodstock, yeah, Squatch stock or something. But I think that would be great, to have an event like that come to fruition, because it would give a lot of closure. I think a lot of success, a lot of elation, and a lot of joy and happiness in a lot of people. Because, I mean, this would be one of the biggest "what I told you so's" ever in human history. So,
Oh, Dan, I have a list. I have a list of people that it's going to get a phone call like the day it happens, like when it's like
good.
when it's I've got a phone.
Yeah.
You're not gonna hear from me for a couple of days because I'm gonna be making phone calls. I'm gonna be like nana boo boo.
Well, that's what, yeah. And I mean, even when Doc passed last week, I was amazed at how many people started texting me and calling me, including you, because you were the one that dropped the message note or the
Yeah.
news to me when I got your text
Well,
last.
I stumbled across it accidentally. I actually saw Adam Davies's post on it, who's a very good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And the first thing I called my wife first, and then I called you immediately after, and because I figured like somebody he should find out from somebody he knows. It's not like some like not. Even though I did find out from a friend of mine on social media, it was still on social media. Like, I don't know. We always did death notifications, and when I was on the police department, and it was always like you want to do it in person. You don't really want to like find out in an email or something that
Yeah.
somebody you're close with has passed on. So that's why I called you, is because he needs to hear it from somebody that he
Well,
knows personally. Yeah.
yeah. I think about a week or so, week and a half before, uh, Mark had written me from Coeur d'Alene, and he sent me a text, said something like, "Oh no," and then he sent me the post where they canceled a recent appearance that Doc was supposed to be at, and it said that he won't be showing up due to a medical emergency. And then I actually wrote Doc, just to be honest with everybody, from the time that Mark sent me that notice up until the time he passed. And I was writing Doc going, "Hey, are you okay? What's going on?" If you can write back, or called him, and then didn't hear nothing. And then you got a hold of me the other day. So in that week and a half, 2 week period, I guess that's when, he went critical, started waning. But, I'm going to plug along, and I hope everybody else does the same. because wherever you're at and wherever you're doing out there in the Sasquatch research, investigative, even if you're just a big Sasquatch hobbyist or whatever, keep doing what you're doing, because sooner or later somebody's got to hit pay dirt with this thing, where we get some legitimate, tangible, here it is evidence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I'm just, man, I can't believe it just hit like that. It was just so weird. How
Yeah,
I mean, he was a year, I think a year older than my dad when my dad passed. My dad was 66, and
he's a year younger than me.
yeah,
I mean,
I
I'll be
remember thinking like
69.
man, that's too young, you know.
Well, another thing to let everybody know, I'm not trying to be melodramatic or nothing, but I was just with him 2 months ago today at his lab in Idaho State, in Pocatello, Idaho. And I mean, I didn't see anything wrong with him per se, if you will. I mean, I didn't sense anything. And, 2 months later, boom, I'm like, wow. So, maybe I'll get the opportunity to speak to his wife, Lauren, sometime in the future, because she'd already posted that they family requested their privacy and everything, which is the right thing to do, of course. But hopefully, maybe someday I'll get to talk
Yeah,
to her once the dust settles and
they
get
did.
some.
They did make a post. I think after that about
What they did.
his his obituary, where his obituary is going to be posted. I haven't looked to see if it was up yet, but
Oh,
when
okay.
we get done with this, I'll check to see if it's up, and if it is, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, if you see it, send it to me,
Yeah,
and then
I from what I understand, I think they said they're not going to have a service,
right,
and
exactly.
if you want to, I think they're asking for maybe donations or something to
Right,
like charity or something. I don't remember what it said, but well, I'll send it to you when we get done.
right. Because I even thought on those lines, and I figured I kind of got into Lauren's head. I thought, man, if she had an open ceremony, I could imagine how many people from around the country that he knew and worked with and admire him and love him would show up. I think it would be beyond an insane. They'd probably call law enforcement
Yeah.
agencies in from
Oh,
four
they'd have to
states.
have it at like at the university at one of the arenas or
Yeah.
yes or something, or the football stadium or something like that, or I don't know what
Well,
they have there,
yeah,
but
because I mean,
yeah,
it's his decision and it's his choice and it's good because, I mean, a lot of ways he was humble as heck anyway, too. So, I mean, if he wants to keep it quiet, because, that's his prerogative. And all of us who knew him, we can just remember him and honor him and appreciate him and thank God we knew him and had him in our time here on earth. You know what I mean?
I do, and he's going to be missed, and I'm very
Yeah,
saddened. I'm saddened, and my thoughts and prayers are with his family. I hope they have
exactly.
have
Yeah, his
some
whole
some
family, his children, and his
yeah.
wife Lauren, and everybody. God love you and rest in peace. And we wish you the best and hope that the good Lord will, assuage your bereaving and anger and sorrow and grief in this time of his loss. It's the only thing I can say, because just loved him, gonna miss him. Just
Yeah.
move on.
Dan, I think on that note, we should play this video
Oh yeah, this
that you've
little video
provided for me.
I made, yeah,
So let me bring this up here.
in memory and honor of Doc. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think the main takeaway is that even though Doc's gone and we all miss him, the search is going to continue.
Right. And, the people that are out there doing this, I pray that you'll remember him. I know we're being a little redundant, but if you get the chance, if you haven't done so, you need to read his book and start using it as a reference. It's like totally unbelievable, the information that he left in that book, and everybody's seen it.
Legend meets
Sasquatch,
science.
Legends Meets Science, because the thing is, I already knew a lot of this, but when the book, I got my hands on it and read it, if you haven't read it, it's going to really, I think, inform you and move you to a place, if you're a skeptic, where there's enough legitimate physical scientific evidence, like he's emphatically stated in numerous presentations, videos, and appearances and speaking engagements. I remember the time I heard him say it. These things are real, so we are going to miss him. And I hope you enjoyed that little video, because that's just some pictures of the short 3 years I knew him personally, and I can't say enough good things about him. So keep the faith, keep up the good work wherever you're at out there, and remember, as a joke, I always tell people, if you're out in the woods with your buddies and you have this pay dirt incident occur, and one of these things grabs you by the ankles, starts using you as a tree knocker, the people that are with you, make sure they don't stop filming, because you got to get that on YouTube. That's my lighter side of this stuff, because you gotta have a sense of humor with this stuff. So.
Got to get a good 30 seconds to minute of footage, then help me.
Yeah. I mean, even Doc, I laughed the first time I went to Doc's office, being honest with you, at his lab in Idaho State, Pocatello. I'll put some pictures up of it next time we get together, but on his door going into his lab, he had numerous cutouts, like single cell, like kind of like Far Side type cartoons, that when me and Mike went up there a couple years ago, Mr. McMahon, we were standing in the hall looking at his door, and we just looked at each other and we started laughing, because some of these one-celled cartoon gags that he had on the door of his lab are hilarious. I got a picture of it, so maybe I can send it to you and you can edit it in to the presentation or the podcast if you want, on this show if you want, or we can wait till later. It's up to you. But he did have a sense of humor. He had a great sense of humor. Matter of fact, on some of the flyers that I made for next year's big conference, it was so funny because I kind of made them in black and white. You'll see theme this year for the conference. Some really good pictures that I got offline, but a couple of them look pretty stern, mean, serious, like, ornery Bigfoots, as he said. And
Yeah.
Doc wrote me, goes, that Bigfoot looks kind of ornery. Looks like Doc wrote, he looks like he could use some Metamucil. So I got that text or email from him, and I started laughing, because I thought, man, he had a great sense of humor too. So anyway, that's it for today.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining me. I had a great time talking to you, and especially reminiscing about Dr. Meldrum, man. I miss him.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure as always, and looking forward to doing a lot more shows with you. And thanks everybody for being here. I really appreciate it. And have a good one yourselves. Hope your football team's doing good.
Foosball's the devil. So, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dan Toth, retired Navy SEAL. You can find him at bigfootinvestigativegroup.com. Is that right?
Yep.
Yep. Please go check out his videos. I'll try pictures, and I'll try and throw a link in the show notes here, so you can head right there. You can find me at lastwatchpodcast.com. And, we'll be back with you. We'll be keeping you updated on the big conference coming up in July, when Dan gets the next speaker figured out to not replace, but take Dr. Meldrum's spot.
Right.
We will definitely keep you informed, let you know who that is. There's already some names floating around. And thank you so much for listening. And thoughts and prayers out to Dr. Meldrum's family and healing energies, all that good stuff. And we're sorry for your loss.
Yep. See you later. Have a good one.